The Everglades Foundation has been here in Miami for almost 30 years, and we work to restore and protect America's Everglades through science, advocacy, and education. So recently we figured out that there was a lack of education in South Florida, specifically in the Tri-County area of Broward, Miami-Dade County, and Monroe County, which is the Keys. The people didn't realize that the fresh water that they use every day comes from the Everglades. So the Everglades is a massive, unique ecosystem that's here in South Florida, and it serves many functions. But it seems like this huge amount of urban area that surrounds the Everglades is mostly unaware of all those functions. So the Everglades Foundation decided to do a survey of the residents of Broward and Miami-Dade County and ask a very simple question just to understand whether they knew that the water they use every day at home to brush their teeth and wash their dishes comes from this ecosystem. And we were surprised to learn that 95% of residents of Broward and Miami-Dade County do not know that the Everglades supplies their fresh water, their drinking water. So we figured that we need to create an education campaign for adults, for everyone who lives in Broward, Miami-Dade, and the Keys, because people need to understand that when we protect the Everglades and when we restore this ecosystem, what's at stake is the fresh water of 9 million people. 42% of the state of Florida residents receive their daily supply of fresh water from the Everglades. So we realized that people were thinking that maybe the Everglades is just that national park that you can go to near Homestead, but it's a lot more than that. It's 3 times bigger than the national park, and it's a resource for all of us Floridians and for all of the tourists and visitors, millions of them that come every year. Without water, there's really nothing, and so that's why the Everglades is so important. So we just launched our new educational campaign that's called Your Water Comes from the Everglades. Nuestra agua viene de los Everglades in Spanish. It's a multilingual campaign, which we're running in different platforms to try to reach all these residents. We have some billboards that went up on the highway. We have digital ads in English, Spanish, and Creole. We're reaching people through social media, through TV and media outreach and interviews. And we're trying to reach as many people as possible. And we're asking people to share this information with us because we need to make sure that every resident knows that when the Everglades are threatened, when there are issues on the ballot that puts the Everglades in danger, it's not only the habitat of alligators and thousands of wading birds that maybe don't even live anywhere else in the world, but it's also the future of our economy and the future of the development of South Florida because we need that fresh water. The biggest challenge is educating so many people. Miami-Dade and Broward are areas that get a lot of new residents. So especially in the last few years, I mean, we are getting thousands of people moving here every month. So there's the big education that is needed, right? People come from somewhere else in Miami. Everyone has a different nationality. So we need to be able to reach these people and educate them about the source of their fresh water. And we need to do that not only through our own campaign, but through partnerships. We were very happy to have Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava come to our campaign launch. She posted on her own social media and is offering partnerships and resources so that we can educate everyone. If you are a restaurant owner, or if you work for a hotel, or whatever you do here in Miami, the health of the Everglades impacts you. So we want to make sure that people understand what's at stake when the health of the Everglades is at stake. It's kind of like the first step. The second step is then understanding all of the threats that the Everglades suffer, right? What are the impacts around development, what are the impacts about the urban areas around it, agriculture, pollution, and all the pollution that is coming from Lake Okeechobee, and why is it that we're restoring this ecosystem. So the Everglades restoration is the largest ecosystem restoration ever done in the history of the world. It's taken about 20 years of planning. It's already working. There's a lot of projects that are being breaking ground. And basically restoring the Everglades means restoring the natural water flow that used to come from Lake Okeechobee through the Everglades all the way to the Florida Keys. That freshwater flow is what helps recharge the Biscayne aquifer where we get our fresh water from. The flow is messed up because through development in the early 1940s, to create space for agriculture and for development, we started draining the Everglades. It was a concerted effort to drain the Everglades. And now we've been suffering and understanding the consequences of that. So through infrastructure, reservoirs, canals, what we're doing, Everglades restoration is basically trying to store, clean, and send water south through infrastructure and kind of recreate that historic, that natural water flow that used to come from the center of Florida all the way to the Florida Keys. People always ask, what can I do? And right now we can see that the first thing is to be informed. When we encounter something like 95% of the population not knowing that the Everglades is the source of the fresh water, how are we even going to understand what the threats are and what the implications are for our everyday life? So the first thing is being informed and telling others, because we need everyone else to be informed. Once you're informed, you can talk to elected officials. You can vote with that in mind. You can understand that when there's an issue that is an urban planning issue that is affecting Everglades restoration, you're going to be more encouraged to speak to your representative, to your council member, because you understand really what's at stake. So we all have the responsibility of being informed so that we can understand the impact that the Everglades has in our everyday life and in our future, because it also helps us fight against climate change impacts here in South Florida, sea level rise, flooding, all those things are important. So first, step one, be informed. Step two, educate others and let your elected officials know, let other businesses know what's at stake and what's important so that the right decisions can be taken by local governments, by the state government, and even by the federal government when it comes to restoration and protection of the Everglades. Miami-Dade and Broward, South Florida is a very diverse community. 66% of Miami-Dade County residents speak Spanish at home and consume media in Spanish. And we've noticed by, watching the news in Spanish that there's a gap on environmental news. There's a gap on understanding our environment. So we wanted to make sure that we were there to fill in this gap. We wanted to make sure that we talked to everyone. We wanted to make sure that we're speaking to you, to Miamians, that you are going to look at it, not because you care about animals, but maybe because you care about Miami and you care about the future of our economy or where you live. So we wanted to make this a very accessible and inclusive campaign. We wanted to make sure that we included Haitian Creole to reach out to populations in Miami-Dade County and Broward, and to reach our whole multicultural audience that lives here in South Florida. So Everglades restoration is the most important tool that we have to secure the future of South Florida. And that's something that we realized a little bit over 20 years ago in the 2000s when the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan was passed. The Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan is a plan that has the state of Florida and the federal government splitting the cost 50% and 50% to restore this massive ecosystem. It's a bipartisan issue. Everyone supports Everglades restoration. The cost of doing nothing would be not having a future, right? Fortunately, a lot of the projects that we've already started have helped already move some of that flow south and is helping recharge the Biscayne aquifer. But if you have a wet season that is not as rainy, you start seeing those water levels drop. And not only are you see the environmental conditions change, wading birds populations be affected, other species be affected, but you will see water restrictions in Miami-Dade County as far as what you can use to water your lawn or, different days of the week. We've seen that in the past. So it's imperative, it's very critical. And the longer we take to restore the Everglades, the more expensive it's going to be. That's why the Everglades Foundation, what we've been doing for 30 years is making sure that our voices have been heard at the state and the federal level to make sure that that funding can come in, that critical funding can come in to finish the infrastructure projects that are needed to restore the water flow through the Everglades. I think that in the end, it all comes to education. We at the Everglades Foundation also have an education program for students at various schools. So we train teachers so that teachers can go on and teach students from K through 12 about the Everglades. We have curriculum that is ready for teachers to use. So there's a lot of tools available. I think the most important thing is for all of us to feel responsible and proud of this unique ecosystem. It really is a luxury to have an ecosystem that cleans, stores, and delivers your fresh water when you can see in the rest of the world and in the United States issues with fresh water, lack of fresh water. So we need to make sure we take care of our fresh water, that we're informed and educated about what are the things that impact this ecosystem and that we're proud of it. So I encourage everyone to follow us on social media, to go to our website, learn more, and to teach others about it, and to go get yourself out there in the Everglades and see the beauty of it yourself. We get people from all over the world to come and see these unique ecosystem. Is one of the largest wetlands in the world, and we should all appreciate it and understand the important functions that it has.